So, welcome, Lewis.
Hello, good to be here.
Great to meet you. You are unbelievable. Well, actually, I do believe you because I know that it's possible for young people to have such an impact. But I just get so excited. And everyone who's been listening to this knows that whenever there's a young person and they're changing the world, man, I love it. So I'm so happy to have you here.
Amazing, it's a pleasure.
Now, tell me this: you're 16, right? I, well, I'm going to go through it, but I'm just going to read for a minute. You've done Aurora Bath Bombs and Cheeky Lemonade, the Curious Times, Global Young Entrepreneur Society, Scrannables. Like you this by 16, and you started when you're 10. I don't even know. Some people don't even do that much in a whole lifetime. So, in 16, where does this entrepreneurial spirit come from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I suppose I've always been quite a self-driven individual, and quite self-motivated, like away from like a school curriculum or what my parents say I should be doing. Um, so, and I think actually a lot of that comes from, I mean, I went to like a Montessori nursery, which I'm like a big advocate for, right?
Yeah.
And I think that follows on from what a lot of entrepreneurs have done, like Jeff Bezos, like the founders of Google, so many different people. But I think they teach quite a self-driven and self-led mindset towards learning,
Yeah.
and I think that's definitely carried through and motivated me to do like similar things at my age. Yeah, for sure. And I also love to keep busy. Like you'll never see me not doing something. Even if I'm in the car or in class, I'll always be working at something. But it's great. I love to keep busy. Love to not waste a single second. I'm
Yeah.
always doing something. So yeah.
I'm with you. I can't stand wasting a minute. I'm on the go from the minute I wait. Actually, as soon as I open my eyes, bam, my brain's turned on and I drive everybody nuts. It's like, shush, shush. It's too early for that. Well, I love them. I love Montessori schools and I love all of those kind of schools that look, people who listen to this podcast know I've got a shitty view of schools, the school system. I think there's some great teachers, but I think they're struggling within a system that doesn't work for all kids. And when we've got these other options, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now you're a high achiever. I'm just gonna take a punt on that because you're saying, oh, yeah, I've got to be busy, busy, busy. But um, I wrote the book Magnificent Kids, as you know, and it, often what we do with kids is we shut them down. We you're only a kid. How would you know? Do it when you're grown up, all of that kind of stuff. How do we? And you might not know the answer to this, but I just love this because if there's any parents listening, how do you recognize that gift in kids? Well, like from your perspective, how would we see it? How would we recognize it?
Well, that's another good question. Well, I suppose like I think parents like a big part of their job is to listen. And from listening carefully, like you can recognize that um your child is very passionate about doing a specific thing. And probably quite ambitious as well, and you can tell from like their attitude and what they're saying. Um, and I think, well, recognizing it is quite difficult, and I think the child has a big part to play in that. But as soon as you do, you need to create like a safe environment and a supportive environment for growth,
Mm,
um, where the child feels like they can be themselves, they can experiment, try new things. I think that's one of the most wonderful things about being a child.
yeah,
And I said to other people about being a young entrepreneur is such an advantage. I mean, like age discrimination is one thing we were just saying there,
yeah,
but like I don't have a family relying on me providing a safe salary. Like I can take risks while I'm young. It's such a beautiful thing. And I feel like it's only going to be there for a certain amount of time. So I've got to use it while it lasts. But I think that's definitely one of the most wonderful things about being a young entrepreneur and being in a safe enough space to try out new things and take risks. And from that, I think young people are so versatile and we're excellent at learning from failure. um, yeah, and I'm also a big fan of lifelong learning. So
yeah,
I would encourage young people to take that attitude through life, that they learn in that safe environment.
yeah.
But definitely listening is a big thing, and then, you know, creating a culture where they can flourish from there.
and believing in them. It's just because if a kid has an idea, just help them out. Just give them the opportunity to try it. Now, I love that. I think that there are also high. I would call you a very, very talented person, and in fact, probably leaning on the
That's very kind.
genius and that kind of stuff. So there are kids with passion. No, you don't think you're a genius. Oh, let me finish, right? Don't you interrupt.
Okay, I will. That's very rude.
But I think there are kids that are just have really got something, that is just a talented, very, very talented. But there's other kids that have got really, really passionate about stuff, and both should be. Well, all kids should be. Shut up, Karen. I just best stop talking, because otherwise I'm going to sound like kids that don't have it shouldn't be supported, and that's not true at all. I want to talk about your talent with your ballet and your hockey. Now, you are a very talented hockey player, and you are your ballet. Now, I don't, it's in the bio if anybody wants to read it, but Lewis is doing ballet in all these extraordinarily high levels in Scotland. And I don't know, why ballet? You reminds me of that film. There was a film when there was a young boy doing ballet. Do you remember that
Was
film?
it Billy Elliot?
Yeah, Billy Elliot. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
it's so good. Oh, it's brilliant. I love that film so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would rewatch that any day of the week.
You actually look
Yeah.
a bit like the boy that was playing the character.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
I'll take that as a
you
compliment any day.
do.
That's fabulous. Yeah, but why ballet? I mean, so many reasons. Well, first of all, I got like I tried out ballet when I was 3, so I don't know if I was in like a position to say like, oh, this is exactly what I want to be doing in like I don't
Yeah.
know, 13 years time. But no, but it is, and I've loved it ever since for a plethora of reasons, you know. I mean, nowadays, like the sense of escape that it offers me, to break away from everything I'm doing in my normal life, like school exams or business or anything like that. I can't focus on anything but the ballet I'm doing while I'm in class. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's like nothing else. And because of that, because you're focusing on such like technical exercises, it completely clears the mind. And I think it's brilliant for your mental health, and for your for your mind to be clearer, making the best decisions in business, school,
Yeah.
personal life, everything. And I also just love it. Like I'm really passionate about dancing in itself and as an art form. Like I love watching it. And well, actually, I didn't originally love watching it, but I've grown towards it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but dancing, it's different gravy.
Well, I dance every morning. I go for a walk up I live on a farm, and I go for a walk up the drive, and then I dance for 3 songs. And I think if we put you and I side by side and dance, I think people would be telling me, sit down, Karen. That's not dancing. But
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sure your dancing is wonderful, Karen. I'm sure it is.
oh, you're way too
Um,
polite.
no, it's great fun. But dancing in any sort, you know,
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend. I mean, you know yourself, it's brilliant. It's
It is.
brilliant, and it releases so many endorphins. I mean, it makes you happy.
It really does. I love starting the day like that. And it's just that we don't really dance. We just move. It's just movement. We just throw our bodies around like, floppy fish, that kind of stuff. But it really clears your mind. And I love that you're doing that. And, some people can, I love that you're so young and you've actually figured that out, because a lot of people go through life and they burn out. They want to be an entrepreneur, and, they follow all that sort of that pathway, but they burn out because they don't have that opportunity to have the mindfulness in there. But I love that you've figured that out so young, and that's
Yeah,
powerful.
I think
Mm,
a lot of entrepreneurs actually they have something else that they're very good at, or they do to a high level. Usually sport actually as well. Um, and for good reason. I mean, also a lot of entrepreneurs value team sports as well.
yeah.
Um, which sadly I don't do as much of anymore because of the ballet. But no, it's still great fun though, for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Now, let's go into your businesses. And this is I remember we connected on LinkedIn, and then I looked at your profile, and it's like I think it was Scrannables was the last thing, and I thought that's impressive, that's good. And then I went back down through the column, and I thought, oh my God, look at all these things. And one of them I saw, he started in, I don't know, 2010 or something like that, and I was like, he can't have even been 3. Like, he must have been such a baby. But you started Aurora bath bombs when you were 10 years
Yeah.
old. So how does a 10-year-old go, oh, I think I might make some bath bombs? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
Well, that's kind of like what it was, because I didn't go out for Aurora Basketball saying like, oh yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur for like a title, or to acquire a name or anything. Like, it just sort of happened, because I'm very passionate about people similarly to you. And I love bringing people together for like a communal cause.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of friends, and I was like, hey guys, do you want to make some bath bombs? And they were like, yeah, for sure. And we all got together. I built a website, an online, I think I used like maybe Wix or Squarespace or something. Like, it was just one of the bog standard like website platforms, and it was great. And we just sold to the local community from there. They were all handmade. We had like different collections. I mean, actually, it was really well thought out for it, considering my age at the time. Like, I look back on it and I'm like, wow, I was able to do that. That's cool. But yeah, we had like a planetary collection with like Mars, Pluto. It was awesome. Yeah. But
Wow.
then I closed it down. Yeah,
Why did
because
you close it down?
that's a good question. Probably because it was like creating a massive mess in my living room. And my parents didn't like it. But no, I'm just joking. I can't remember actually. I guess I just moved on in life. No, it was great fun though. It was great fun. And at the time, like, I was just doing what I loved. I really liked bath bombs. Like, we had Lush in the UK, big
Yeah,
like
yeah.
bath bomb
We've
place,
got that.
Lush.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, every time I passed the shop, it smelled so good, but it was always so expensive. So I thought like, well, how can I afford Lush as opposed to I can't afford Lush? And then I was like, I could make my own bath bombs and then make money from that myself. And then I was like, oh, but I ended up selling to my headmaster and everything. It was great. It was great fun. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you like, I'll make the bath bombs and, oh, I'll just make a website, that kind of stuff. Most 10-year-olds aren't thinking about a website. I know in this house, my stepdaughter, the slime. I don't know if you had the slime
Yeah.
phase, and it was like, oh no. And she ruined all of our containers, with all this slime and everything else. But there was no thought of a website, it was just like,
Mm.
I know we did go through the candle making phase with her. Yeah, we did do that. Now, bath bombs to cheeky lemonade. Uh,
Yeah.
so what's cheeky lemonade? How did you do that?
Well, like I was saying to you before, like, we had this really, really hot summer in the UK. And in classic entrepreneurial style, I was like, this is an opportunity. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I still like lemonade to this day. I mean, for good reason, who doesn't?
Yeah,
But I was like, again, I gathered together a group of friends, and we bought loads of ingredients, bought like an industrial grade mixer, put all my money into it, bought loads of bottles and like a mini bottling machine, and then we produced loads and loads of lemonade on the weekends, and then would just sell it on the weekdays after school. And it was great, great. Like, literally, I mean, it was probably not legal to sell on the streets, but like, it was just outside my house. So, I mean, everyone was like, it brought together the local community as well, because everyone was like, gathering around the stall, and in fact, right at the start, we used to sell it out of like wine glasses,
yeah.
and then they'd have to drink it on the spot and then place it back, and then we could wash them. But no, that was really good fun as well. Yeah,
Why you do it? Why do you do it with a bunch of mates? Like, what's why do you? Because a lot of entrepreneurs just go, I'm going to do it myself. I'm just going to do this.
yeah,
You're very inclusive. Like, you're bringing all your mates on board. Why? What's that about? I think it's great,
yeah.
but
No, 100%. Like, I'm super passionate about bringing people together. And I really value and believe in the team as a whole and what
yeah,
we can achieve
yeah,
when we're all together and working towards a common cause. And I mean, it's one thing to mention that in like Cheeky Lemonade or something else, but I think that's very evident in what we've managed to achieve through the CT. Like, there's no chance I would have been able to do that just by myself. It's a massive team effort. But I also think we should carry that through into much bigger movements like the climate change movement and everything. You've got to work as a team to be able to achieve something that big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a real believer in team spirit and
Yeah.
bringing people together.
And I love that you, I still can't believe though, at 12, we went and got an industrial maker, and we got, most kids just sit out with put a table and chairs out the front in front end of their driveway and just sort of sell 5 cents a glass, to passers by. But you went and got the industrial stuff.
Well, that's how we started, though. You got to start somewhere. Start small and then iterate.
I love that you say that, and I tell people that all the time. People get overwhelmed by the big picture. It's kind of like, well, there's so much to do. I don't know what to do. And I just say, people start. Just take one small step. It doesn't actually matter what it is, because that will get the momentum, and everything will keep going from there. But I love that you've said that. Now, moving on, because we've got a long list of your businesses to get through. You started the Curious Times. Now, if I'm looking at these dates, I reckon, what have we got 3 years ago? You're about 13. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
13.
I think was I 12? No, I was 13, I think. Yeah. Just turned 13, maybe. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about the Curious Times.
Yeah, I mean, can you guess how it started? Brought together a group of friends.
You brought together.
Yeah, well, I was actually sitting on the couch just behind me, and I was thinking, because it was in the first of like the big lockdowns in the UK for COVID, and I was sitting down, I was thinking, like, I can't see my friends, like it was also in the Easter holidays, so actually it was like, oh my goodness, it was like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever, today. It must have been, or in the 14th maybe of April.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So really soon, actually, our anniversary. Thanks for reminding me. But
that's all right.
yeah,
I'm just looking.
I was sitting around and I was thinking, like, wow, this is like quite isolating,
Yeah.
I feel quite disconnected from like the life I led just a few weeks ago. And I saw this as an opportunity, though, because I saw this as an opportunity to build a platform for young people to connect and still explore their creativity. And the only real opportunity here was online. So what I did is, for like a week and a half, I built another website, and then I think it was actually on Wix again, but trusty Wix, and gather together a group of friends, which formed the first editorial board. And then from then we just all wrote about our passions. And then we did something really interesting in the next big lockdown, which was called Isolation Stories. And we collected isolation stories from Dubai, Australia, India, all around the world. And we still got those on the website today, which is a really like interesting archive of that time and how people from around the globe were experiencing lockdown as well. But today, because of the team effort, which I'm a big believer in, it's grown into several hundred thousands of readership from over 100 different countries.
Wow.
Multi-award winning. It's been such a transformational journey for me personally as well.
Yeah.
Mostly, I mean, listening to the stories from those impacted by the Curious Times has been incredibly motivational for me to continue going as well.
Wow.
And I mean, there are some people who now I would call like really, really close friends of mine who I never would have met without the Curious Times. And the Curious Times is actually how I met my business partner for 2 other different projects, who lives in a completely different continent, effectively. And it's been such a wonderful journey so far, and it's brought so many incredible things to my life, which shows it's worth starting. I didn't start thinking, hey, I'm going to build like a platform for hundreds of thousands of people. I thought, hey, I'm going to start a magazine which brings people together and helps people stay connected in lockdown. And it's grown completely organically from there. And it's been a beautiful journey. It has.
That's the difference, isn't it? Starting something because you care about it. There's a reason for starting it, as opposed to starting something for success. You know, a lot
Yeah.
of people get it wrong. They're like, well, how can I be successful? You know, I'm going to start this and I'll be massively successful. But if you do it for, I just want to do good, you know, I just want to make change, I just want to help people, you do it for the right reasons, often the success comes, you know, whatever success means to you. Some people think it's money, some people think it's happiness, some people think it's connection. It doesn't really matter, but we're starting it for the right reason is what matters. Do you know that I know this is going to sound extreme, but I don't think it is. You starting that magazine just because I want to connect people, you know, I want people not to feel isolated. You probably saved many, many lives. Do you know? Because a lot of people were, and I know it sounds extreme, and I know that, but people were taking their own lives, you know, during COVID, and because of isolation and loneliness and that sort of stuff, and feeling like you've already got a cohort of people in the world that feel like nobody understands me, you know, nobody else is going through what I'm going through, and then you put the COVID layer on top of that, you know, and it's even more compounded, and then you come along and you're sharing these, not just you, but you know, the Curious Times comes along, and suddenly people are going, wow, there are other people out there experiencing what I am experiencing. I'm not alone. You know, that's life-saving. Have you ever thought of it to that degree?
Well, now you mention it, I suppose I haven't, but that certainly makes it a lot more meaningful. And I have heard a lot of different stories from people who have been impacted, saying like it's been a total lifeline, and it's changed my life, which has been really incredible actually, because to think that just like 3 years ago this didn't exist, and
Yeah.
that we were able to build that and help those people was incredible. So yeah, I suppose it could have, yeah, possibly.
You're saying could have possibly. I'm saying I bloody guarantee that you've saved at least one life, if not multiple lives. And I know we can never, when we do things like this, we can never measure it. You know, we can never know. But let me just give you an example. I went to I was facilitating a leadership course on Sunday, and I was doing the project development session, you know, day. And one of the girls come up to me and said, this is how we don't know who we touch. And she come up to me and she said, I'm doing this because of you. And I said, you're doing what because of me? And she said, I'm doing this leadership course because of you. And I looked at her and I thought, I don't know you. Like how did this happen? And she said, you spoke. She said, I work at this place and in this town. You won't know what I'm talking about, but I work at this place in a town, and you were there. You know, there was a conference there and you were speaking. And she says, I was supposed to just wipe down the table and leave. She said, but I wiped down the table about 6 times because I wanted to keep listening to you. And she said, and then I came out of there and I thought, I'm doing this. I want to do that. Whatever they're doing in there, I want to do that. And then she went and joined a leadership program. Now, had I not been there on Sunday, I would never have heard that story. You know, I just would never know that. And this happens to me many times, that people out of the blue randomly say stuff to me, and I think, wow. And it's just that it's evidence that you've got to show up at your best, you know, because you'll never know who you're impacting, you know, and you don't do it to tick boxes. You don't do it like with your Curious Times. You don't do it to tick a box and to measure, you know, and to say, well, I'm super successful. You just do it because it's the right feeling, and you just hope that it's going to change somebody's life. So, you know, I think you're not aware of. I think the impact is bigger than you realize. It's more far-reaching than you realize, and the ripple effect is phenomenal. And I guess you'll never know. But
Yeah. Well, that story that you just highlighted is incredible and really, really inspiring. And I do hope that I've had similar impact. But I mean, those kind of things, they must motivate you more than anything to keep going.
they do.
And it's the exact same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's you know, these are every time I think, you know, I don't know, am I doing the right thing? something like that happens every time. And it's kind of like this indicator. Yes, you're on the right path. Yes, you're on the right path. You know, it's great. Now, you were talking before, like you've said it twice. I was 10 and then I just built a website, you know, that kind of thing. A lot of people, and I'm not talking about just young people, all people, have ideas and then they don't follow through. Do you know, they like the thought of building a website is kind of like, well, I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to do it. Therefore, I'm going to stop. So there's a lot of dreams that never actually come to fruition. And there's a lot of people that miss out because that dream never come. And I don't mean the creator. I mean the people as just that we've been talking about, you know, the people who get to get something from it. So a lot of this is about self-doubt, not from you, but from these other people. How, from where you sit as a young person, how do you reckon people can overcome self-doubt? Sorry.
That's a good question. That's a big question. But how do I think people can overcome self-doubt? I think believing in yourself is a massive part of it. But then I suppose that is like not believing in yourself is self-doubt. So it's not very helpful. But I had this wonderful experience on Friday night where I went to watch the Birmingham Royal Ballet in Edinburgh actually. And they were dancing Swan Lake, but beforehand there was a pre-show talk with the person who played Odette the night before, this wonderful dancer from Vancouver, and I asked her what her advice for young dancers was, and she said, "Trust your technique." And I think this is just as applicable in young people today and self-doubt. You've got to trust yourself, and you've got to trust your own ability that taking that first step will lead to good places. It might be difficult along the journey, but that first step's pretty difficult. I mean, for me at the moment, like I've got my big like national exams coming up in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And as soon as I start revising, then I'm in the flow of things. But just starting to revise is the most difficult thing, you know, that degree of procrastination, you know. But as soon as you begin, you know, you're set on a path and it's so much easier. So I definitely say get off the bench and start. And then things will start to piece together like organically and they'll grow.
I agree with that. Absolutely agree. And that's the first step is the hardest. It is always the hardest, and all that procrastination and the fear and everything just sitting there. And then if you just take that one step, you go, oh, I did it. And then and everything else comes after that. But I know we're making it sound easy, you know, because we've both started multiple projects and people go, yeah, but you two have got something that I don't have. And people say that to me all the time. You've got something I don't have. And I don't believe that at all. I think the difference
I agree.
is just we started. We just took a step and you know, I've got a few things that I've got projects that did not start, were not meant to be how they've turned out. You know, they started completely different and they ended up, get off the bench. You know, I was doing a workshop and I was helping people kickstart their projects. It was only an hour. And I said, oh, this isn't long enough. It's not long enough. There's so many things I want to tell you. And as I'm going through the workshop, I'm like, oh, no, you need to know about that. So I said, give me your email and I'll write up a PDF when I get home and I'll send you a whole lot more stuff. So I started typing it the next day and I'm like, oh, what about that? Oh, they need to know about that. Oh, they need to know about that. And before I knew it, I had a book. And if you ask me now, am I satisfied with that book? I'd say, yeah, I'd probably like to rewrite it if I ever had time. But there's so many people that have said to me, I've started my project because of your book, because I can hear your voice telling me, do this, do that, go and do it. And so it is effective regardless that I want to make it more perfect, you know. And it was never meant to be a book. And, you know, I think that was all because I felt like there were people in that room who just deserve something more than what they're getting. So I think sometimes we have this big plan like, oh, I can see success and I want to do this and I want to do that. Sometimes I think just something feels good in here. Just go ahead and see where it leads to.
And do you think it's made it even more special with Get Off the Bench? The fact that you started and then it's grown into this book when originally it wasn't supposed to be?
Yeah, yeah.
I would definitely say so.
It was just one about was 3 or 4 days into it, and I thought, I think I've got a book. I think I've got a book. And the whole thing was written in about 4 weeks. Like and I didn't care for editing. I did edit it, but not much. I was just like,
Yeah.
you know what? People need, and the thing that made me not procrastinate and be perfect about it was because I knew I had a bunch of people sitting there waiting for my PDF. And I felt like I was letting them down if I didn't get it to them. So I just thought, oh, bugger them. I'll send them a book. That'll be so much better. They get a book, So it actually stopped me doing that whole taking 2 years to write a book. It just fling it out there, and it is what it is. And sometimes, I think we ruin ourselves with perfectionism. Has to be perfect, has to be, I just think. And my One Planet Classrooms project in Africa, I won't go into it, it's a big story, but it started off as a Skype project, between schools. And it was never going to work. I just was so excited. Your school in Africa Skype with a school in Australia. Be fantastic. And send all these laptops over there. I nearly got people killed sending laptops over. And, all sorts of... I know. Probably shouldn't say it on the anyway, but I'll tell you later.
No, I'd love to hear the story, actually, because that sounds fascinating.
Oh, well.
And quite entertaining, if I'm honest.
All right, well, it's a very long story. I'm going to cut it right down to just a few minutes. But I wrote Magnificent Kids. I had a picture of it on the internet. A guy from Africa says, where can I get the book? I sent it to him. He says, he messaged me and said, I want to start a magnificent class. I said, great. He said, can you Skype with my kids? I said, yeah. And then I said, I've got a better idea. Why don't I get some kids in the book to Skype with your kids? That was fantastic. And then I said, I've got a better idea. What about if I'll get a class in Australia? And he said, that's fantastic. He says, I don't have a laptop. And I thought, so I put a thing on Facebook saying, anyone got a laptop? Next thing I've got 30, like 30 laptops.
Wow.
What am I going to do with 30 laptops? And I thought, I'll have to start up a business. So I started One Planet Classrooms as a business, completely knew nothing about not-for-profits. I just thought I will start it. Come to tax time, I got $4,000 in the bank from donations. I thought, I'm going to have to pay tax on this. I'm going to have to start up a not-for-profit. So I somehow figured out how to do that. But then I eventually got them. I wanted to send them by post, and it was going to cost me $600 a laptop, and I've got 30 of them. So I can't afford that. So I had to wait for Rotary to do a shipping container, and then they went to Uganda, and Uganda's got a what can I say? Then you're not allowed to have secondhand goods over there. They're not allowed to ship them in because they, I'll probably get murdered for saying this, but they deliberately want to keep poverty in action. So we had to get them in there, but this is the kicker, Lewis, right? I get these laptops over there, finally work at a not-for-profit, the whole model. But in all that time, I never worked out that the kids in Africa were in bed when the kids in Australia were in school, so they were never going to be able to Skype. Anyway, I never yeah, and it gets better. I never, ever considered that I was sending laptops to a country where 95% of them don't even have power. So it ended up, talk about a failure, but... And then we ended up having to put solar systems into schools, and it was like it just sort of went on and on and on. But it'd be so that they could use the computers, but they were never going to Skype. And then what I learned was that all the girls were going to fetch water, and they were missing out on school in the afternoons. And so I'm talking little kids, and if they don't pass primary, they don't get a secondary. If they don't get a secondary, they get married off to 40, 50-year-old men, when they're 10, 11, 12, 13, that's a sort of age. And without going into detail, it's a brutal, brutal life for them. But along the track where they were getting water, and I'm talking water, it's not clean water, it's in a dirty hole where the animals are toileting in, and it's just full of bugs and worms and stuff, so it's killing the kids anyway. But all these men would line the pathway waiting to sexually assault the girls. And some of the teenage girls were exchanging sex for sanitary items so that they could stay in school, so that they didn't have to get married. And when I heard all this, like I didn't even, I don't know, maybe I don't know why I didn't know, because I always thought Africa had a water problem and it was just like Sudan and it was like desert. You know, I was so uneducated, you know, about Africa. And when I heard all this, I was like, far out. You know, I can either be a failure and say, oh, I screwed that up and I should never do projects because I'm just not a planner, or I can shift it. So then we started putting in water tanks in schools and putting clean water connections to villages and water wells and, you know, that sort of stuff. And, you know, help rebuild a couple of schools and put, we've still got a sponsorship program, started off about 180 kids, you know, so, you know, when you think about it, that's saved thousands and thousands of lives, like the ripple effect, you know, will go down for so long. And it didn't start off anything like that. And so I try to encourage people, you know, start a project anyway, because even if it doesn't end up what you're thinking it was going to end up, you might still save a life. You know, you might still, and even if you impact one person, that was worth doing. You know, that was.
Yeah.
So there's my quick story. I hope I did that quick enough.
No, absolutely. And that was fascinating. So thank you for sharing.
My absolute
That's
pleasure.
really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Even if you do impact one person, I mean, it's all about like to what extent you impact them. But it doesn't matter really. I mean, you're still impacting someone's life, and it could change it forever. You know.
That's all right.
I mean, that's kind of like once you take a step back, even just with one person, that's kind of like incredible to think. You know. Yeah.
I was thinking, it was a few months ago, if you can impact, now I can't remember the maths, but you know, and don't add up. You can add up in your head. You can actually tell me I'm probably wrong. But if you reach 10 people, because sometimes you know, speakers like us will go to an event and there's 1,000 people there or whatever, and we kind of think, oh, you know, if 1,000 people aren't loving it, you know, maybe it was a failure. But we've got to remember that we might only reach 10 people. And if those 10 people are really impacted and they tell 10, there's 100. And if they tell 10, there's 1,000, you know, or impact 10, there's 1,000, then there's 10,000 and my 100,000, I'm going to keep going. You know what I'm saying? So before we know it, like a lot of people say, I would never impact 1 million people, but you can impact 1 million people just by impacting 10 in a really solid way. You know, that
the multiplier effect.
Yeah, you know, it's so why wouldn't we try? Why wouldn't we try? I think, and then 10 and 10, a million, 10 million. I'm not going to do any more maths, Lewis. Stop it. You're looking at me. But
no, your maths was perfect. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good at maths, but you know, not when we get up that number. Now, listen, enough about me. I want to talk about you. What you got the let me read it because I don't want to bugger up. Global Young Entrepreneur Society. Now, you started that in 2021, so you were still only 14, starting a Global Young Entrepreneur Society. So, as if the Curious Times and the ballet wasn't keeping you busy enough, and schooling. By the way, we're completely missing schooling here. Like you've still got to do school time. So why start that, and what's it about?
That's a good question. Well, I founded GYS with my business partner from Hungary, Daniel, who I actually met through the Curious Times because he reached out to us. He saw us in I think it was the Week Junior, and he was like, "Hey, this is really cool. Can we come on the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then we interviewed him for the podcast, and then I was like, "Hey, this guy's really interesting," and he's doing like, it sounds as if he's like a like-minded individual to me, you know. And then he wrote in our school, and then we got in contact further, and then from there we founded GYS, and like you said, in 2021. And today we post signature content, which is like interviews with world-leading politicians, business people, academics, like Harvard professors and everything. and entrepreneurs, and it's been a really inspiring journey talking to some incredible people and learning from them. And it's been brilliant as well to be able to publicly share their advice and interviews similarly to this. I can't speak today. Maybe it's early in the morning, you know.
It's early in the morning.
Yeah, that's my excuse. But no, it's been incredible to like publicly share their advice online as well, and hopefully inspire a lot of entrepreneurs and also be able to connect a lot of entrepreneurs who are currently very successful under the age of 25, which has been brilliant. And obviously we've run the 25 under 25 scheme, which is spotlighting the most exceptional young entrepreneurs, quite similar to your Magnificent Kids book, just slightly older. It's been great. It's been absolutely amazing. And then in September last year, we got invited to Chamonix to speak and represent young people at this conference. We got to speak to like several different world leaders, heads of state. It was just an incredible experience, and I soaked up so much knowledge in a 3-day period, more so than a term of school, if I may say
I
so.
reckon.
But no, it's been incredible actually. And today we've got a thriving community of very, very passionate, either aspiring or exceptional entrepreneurs, which has been brilliant because I felt like, well, the reason why Daniel and I actually started it is because we felt that there wasn't such a community, and that if there had been, it would have accelerated our personal growth, and also brought together a lot of change makers of the next generation. And I think that's a really important thing because, like I said earlier, I'm a big believer in team, and I'm also a big believer in getting things talked and like hashed out, you know. And I think the more we talk, the more we like get to the bottom of the issue and know we're on the right track, building the right kind of things for a better future. So, yeah.
I love it. And which country is Daniel from? I think you said it before and I missed it as you're saying it. Where's he from?
Hungary.
Hungary. And so you're from
Yeah,
Scotland, and you know,
I am.
isn't it brilliant? Like it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You know, we can criticize the internet and criticize social media, you know, because people are just scrolling and wasting their life, you know. But on the other end of that, you know, all the work I do with Africa, and you having a business partner in Hungary, it's absolutely closed the world in, you know, like we can easily do work with anybody from anywhere in the world. And isn't that, so I just find that fascinating and wonderful, you know, that we don't have to do business with somebody who's 2 doors up anymore, you know, who lives in the same town. We can, anybody, anywhere, and the whole world is at our fingertips. Far out.
Yeah.
Isn't that
No,
great?
it totally is. It totally is. And the craziest thing is, I only met Daniel for the first time in person, maybe last summer, I think. So we
Wow.
had 2 years of just online meetings, like several times a week.
Yeah.
And then we met for the first time in person last summer. It's actually crazy. And like I felt like I know this guy, but
Yeah.
I had never really like properly met him, given him a proper handshake, you know. But I mean, he's an amazing entrepreneur. In fact, he'd probably be a great interview for this as well, because he's done some
Yeah.
exceptional things as well.
Yep.
Fascinating guy.
All right, well, hook me up. That's fantastic. So when you're saying about you interviewed him on the podcast, was that with the Curious Times? Did you have a podcast going with the Curious Times? Is that
Yeah. And we had interviewed quite a wide variety of people, as well as having like a Curious Times show, which would be like a regular like news update, and entertainment update, product reviews, all those kind of things.
wow?
But yeah, we interviewed like Dame Jacqueline Wilson and a bunch of different really interesting authors and people that kids found fascinating, and they would just email in saying like, "Hey, could you get this guest on?" And we are like, "Sure, we'll try our best." And yeah, most
And most
exciting
people are
times.
saying yes to you.
Yeah. Well, that's the wonderful thing, right? Because we were talking about age discrimination earlier, and it's often really difficult to come across as authentic and credible as a young person, you know,
Yeah,
especially like in the business world. A
yeah,
lot of people like won't be willing to like trust you with money or anything like that. But it is a double-edged sword.
yeah,
And And because you're so young, people are like, actually, this is like a really incredible project that you're doing, and I want to be involved in this. I want to support young people and give back.
Yeah.
A lot of people are willing to do that, and that's been a really positive thing, actually.
Yeah. A lot of people are willing to do that. And I think, it's we've got to believe in you. Like I'm 60, I've got to believe in you because, you're the future. And I mean, I can say, well, I'll be dead in 30 years and it doesn't matter, but I don't think like that. I think, we're leaving the world behind. Somebody's got to be looking after it. Somebody
Yeah.
has to
I
take
saw
care.
a brilliant quote the other day, which was I think it was the world grows better when old men plant trees of which the shade they know that they will never sit under.
Yeah, and old ladies too. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
quote.
Sorry, it's a dated quote, but I just wanted to get it
And
properly.
that's my quote. I say that all the time. Is that
No way,
yeah, I
really?
do all the time. I want to plant the tree of the shade that I'll never get to sit under. Yeah, I
Yeah,
say that all the time because it's we don't have to sit under it. Just I hope some future generation sits under what I planted. And it's a metaphoric tree, of course.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I hope what I do impact someone many generations down. It's
yeah,
so important. You were just saying about you went and did that talk,
yeah.
and how did you say it? I would have said Chamonix, but I've got no idea. How did you say it?
Doesn't really matter. Chamonix.
Chamonix in France, and
Yeah,
you were standing up in front of all these heads of state and world leaders, and you got to do an opening plenary and a closing plenary, and
yeah,
I know that you're really proud of the fact that you got to be a voice for young people in front of all
yeah,
these potential, I'm going to say important people, and I don't like to put anybody above anybody else. I don't believe in that because we're all just as good as each other, but people who do have influence to make a change,
yeah.
that's the thing. What were you talking about? Like, what did you present to them?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is for the opening thing, we arrived because we were invited to the summit, and I didn't actually I wasn't quite sure if we'd be able to get given the opportunity to talk. And then about a minute and a half beforehand, the guy who was leading the opening plenary was like, "Yeah, we've decided that you guys are speaking, so just prepare something now." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And they wanted us to essentially open with all of the issues that are overshadowing and facing young people and my generation. So
Yeah,
that's things like the debt crisis, global geopolitical instability, like climate change, to name a few. Um, so outline the issues and where young people's concerns lie. And then the idea was that over the summit, there would be brainstorming on how we would tackle these issues and create a better future for young people, as well as improve the world today.
yeah.
So it was mostly outlining today's issues and what kind of future our generation would like to see.
Wow. There are some older people who say there's no such thing as climate change. That's a load of shit. This is
Yeah,
just patterns that the world has, and all that stuff. And then you say, well, the young people are worried about it. Like the young people are concerned because their lives are at risk, because without being, I'm just sort of being black and white here without, I know it's grey because we've screwed up the planet, we've been careless with it, which most old people don't want that responsibility or accountability. I do. I think we have. And what's your thoughts on like what's your comeback to that? Because it's almost like when I hear it, I get really mad because it's kind of like they're just disregarding the concerns of young people. They're just kids. What would they know? They just need to get to school and bloody, shut up and do as they're told. But they're all bloody protesting about it. It's like you don't matter. It's like we're giving you the planet in a completely screwed up state, and we don't give a toss what you think. But from a teenager's point of view or a young person's point of view, how does that feel? Like, how does it feel when we're just burying our heads? I'm not, but I'm just, you know what I'm saying, burying our
Yeah.
heads in the sand, saying, "Too bad." Ah, you deal
Yeah,
with.
well, fortunately, that's not a view that I come across often. But as a young person, I'd feel disappointed, even more anxious because of that, because then I'd know that the people in a position of power or wealth or authority at this time aren't doing enough about it and aren't taking accountability and responsibility, like you're saying, and moving on and tackling the issue.
Mm,
Um, yeah, that I wouldn't feel good, but I mean, all the scientific evidence should be enough, especially for someone who is old enough or educated enough to, you know, even be able to read them. They should gather a good enough understanding of it.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I don't think there's room for that kind of discussion or climate change denying. Like, we really need to get on with it
yeah.
and start fixing it big time. I think a good way of doing that for an older generation would be to divert the right resources to the right places. So take the money away from things like fossil fuels, put it into renewable energies and green projects, or solar farms in Africa, or like positive environmental and social projects that actually need the money.
Mm,
Government should stop subsidizing oil billionaires and big corporations that aren't doing good for the planet. All of these different things. I mean, even something as simple as their vote
yeah,
to be put in the right place that's not killing the planet would be a good start, and that doesn't cost them anything.
yeah,
Um, and but it comes back to what I was saying earlier about listening, and I think that's really important. And you were just mentioning, you were describing sort of the approach of some older people about disregarding the views of young people.
mm,
And I'd ask what century they're in, because that's not really done anymore. I mean, like they're in like the Victorian era or something. But no, I think listening's really, really important. Yeah. Not, and I think this goes both young people to uh older generations and older generations back to young people as well. Because I mean, we're interested on why they might believe what they opinionate.
yeah. I think it's funny because you say, in what century is this happening, and in what planet are these people? These people do exist, and
Hmm.
I think that why you said, I don't come across that very often, but this is such an important point you bring up, that we should hang around with the right people. I mean, I know we've still got to influence people that have got poor attitudes and stuff like that, but you're around a lot of people that are trying to do great stuff. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
my generation, I see and hear a lot of people saying, "It's a load of bullshit." That's just a load of shit, and I hear it all the time. And so
Yeah.
we've got two completely different perspectives. I'm hearing it all the time. You're hardly ever hearing it, and 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 I love what you said. In what era, in what bloody world, on what planet
Yeah.
is it okay to be talking like that? And I just wish that we would all come together. And some people say, I don't give a shit, I'll be dead soon. And I think, but what about the kids? Like, don't you have kids? Don't you have grandkids? Don't you care about it? And they're like, yeah, well, they can, they'll fix it, and it's, wow. So it stresses me out too. I'm an older generation, older than you, and I worry about it. And I've worked with a
Yeah.
lot of young people around the world, helping them to kickstart climate change projects and that sort of stuff. And I don't know enough. I don't know anything about climate change. I don't. I'm not an expert on it, but I know how to kickstart a project. So that's my
Mhm.
specialty. They know stuff that, why wouldn't I help them? Why wouldn't I help them get it off the bench, and get moving? So I just wish more
Yeah.
people would do that. I really do, because I worry. But I don't want to make this about stressing about the planet. But we've got to pull our fingers out and care more. We have to.
Yeah. Well, no, I totally agree. I mean, that kind of approach pisses me off too. But I I don't think those people should be forgotten because I think as soon as they're isolated, it can become more extreme.
Yeah.
So I'm all for inclusivity and patience in trying to educate them on where the planet's at or any of these issues facing young people. And I think patience is required for it. But yeah, it's frustrating for sure.
Yeah. Patience and kindness. I think we need to, we've got to.
Yeah, and understanding as well, because they've grown up in a different time, perhaps,
Yeah.
or they've had a yeah. I mean, I can't begin to imagine. I've always grown up with a time, in which the internet's been capable of ridiculous things.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't really begin to imagine anything else because I've not lived in that time.
Yeah.
So you've got to come from a perspective of understanding to try and bring people together, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when I was a kid, we didn't even have color TV. So, so I remember when color TV came out and I was about 10 and
Yeah.
my best friend got a color TV and I went round to her place and I said, "Can you turn on the TV? I just want to see what it looks like." And she was so nasty. She said, "No." She said, "It just looks the same, but in color." And I was devastated. I'm like, "Show me the color TV."
Yeah.
So I have lived through that, but and the internet, you wouldn't believe how hard it was to get onto the internet when it first came out. It would do that round and round for like half an hour before you can even get one web page to load. It was back then we
Yeah.
had more time, I think. Anyway, you've
And now we
also.
carry supercomputers in our pocket. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. I know, and I remember when smartphones came out, I was too scared to have one. I was like, I couldn't understand it. I'm like, you can't do the internet on your phone. Like, that's ridiculous. And it took me about 4 years to embrace the smartphone because I was like, I couldn't even fathom it. How can you have the internet in your pocket? And it was just amazing. Anyway, I'm showing my age, so let's stop. So you now at the moment you are working on. It's in product development stage, and you're working on a
Yeah.
subscription-based product called Scrannables, and you describe it as the world's fastest growing snack brand, and I love it. And it's all healthy. It's great. It's environmental packaging and all that kind of stuff. So, what's happening there, and when can we get our mouths around it?
That's good. Yeah. So yeah, fun and tasty, sustainable snack bars, like you're saying. We're also a subscription-based business model, so that's quite unique for the industry as well. And yeah, we're still in the product development stage, but very, very exciting times. I mean, I'm a hungry guy, right? So I'm always snacking. I mean, if anyone knows me like personally, I'm always snacking something. So why not snack my own bars?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, But like similarly to all my projects, there's got to be some like charitable benefit to it. Because this will be the first in I don't know 4 years or something that isn't either a non-profit or a charity, which is
yeah,
quite exciting for me as well. But we're giving 10% of our profits to youth mental health charities
yeah,
because we're selling to well, I suppose we're selling to parents, but for kids to have snack and variety in their snack
yeah.
because in isn't I'm not even speaking again, and it's not even that early in the morning, so I'm losing my excuse as well. No, but because we're selling to kids so that they have a different snack bar for each day of the week, which is quite nice. So you get like a weekly subscription box, and then you can take it into school. And we ran um a pre-launch marketing campaign to see if people like our idea, and it was a huge success. So we had over 400,000 views on social media before we even had a product or anything, and that was without like paid advertising or anything. So it's completely organic. But the whole vibe of the brand is like super fun, super tasty, and obviously ticks all the boxes: healthy, sustainable, everything like that.
I love it. And unfortunately, um, it's only going to be in Scotland until it really kicks off. But I can't wait for it to get to Australia. When your cousins come out here to Australia, can you send some out
Yeah,
for me and get them to
of
send
course. You'll be the first to receive them, Karen. Don't worry.
it?
I'll send some over just for you.
I can't wait. You better tell me when they're out. It just sounds fantastic. And I love that you're doing a for-profit. I love that, and giving some to like the social, oh God. What's that model called? Why have I lost? See, I can't speak either. The older I get, the more
Don't worry. I don't know. Maybe it's the weather.
well, it's late at night here and it's early in the morning there. So that's fair enough. So all right, so I'll go. Look, Lewis, I have loved this. You are just sensational. I'm so glad we connected. This podcast to Get Off the Bench, right? So I have to ask you my get off the bench question. And so there's going to be a stack of people out there listening, some youth, probably not, I don't know, but who knows? But anyway, people are going to have an idea and they don't know, not that they don't know where to start, they probably don't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time, and I ask all my guests, give me some words of wisdom, give the people my listeners some words of wisdom to push them over the edge and get that thing going. So what's your advice?
I mean, I hope this is useful enough, but I'll just say take that first step and trust in your own ability. And I think that's really important. Believe in yourself and believe that you're capable of achieving the first 3 steps, say. And as soon as you're done those, you're looking at the next 3 steps. Or focus on the next step after that. And then suddenly you're breaking down a huge staircase just to 1 step at a time. And it's so much easier, and it allows you to focus on it and take that step properly, plant your foot, and then be able to leap 5 steps up next time. And I also think it's okay that you can take 1 step back to take 2 forward. I think that's perfectly natural that you can, like there have been times in my life where I've like taken a step back and then realized like, maybe I should be reevaluating where I'm putting my resources and my time. Yeah. And I think that's totally fine as well. Like that's quite sensible sometimes.
Yeah.
But just really believe in your own ability and try and build the courage to take that first step. And it's much easier once you start. I mean, and like both of us were saying today, like you might start something believing that it will turn into this, and then suddenly it'll squiggle off and build into something beautiful over here that you never would have expected, and it's always worth it as well. Even if it's not what you originally anticipated, there are so many unseen benefits to it, and it's always worth it. Even if it fails, completely flops, you would have learned so much from it, so it's worth it. Take that first step, believe in yourself.
I love it. And I love what you're saying about believe in your ability. And so what happens is a lot of people will believe that they can't do that big thing, but all you got to do is believe in your ability. Have I done it before? Did I learn to use a smartphone? Yes, I did. Did I learn to drive a car? Yes, I did. And it's just, do I have the ability to do it? Yeah, I do. So give it a crack. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Lewis, I have loved chatting with you. I'm hanging out for me Scrannables bar, but
good. I'll send them over.
Fantastic. Now, where can people find you?
You could find me on LinkedIn or on the Curios Times website, GYS website. So that's gys.org, curiostimes.co.uk, scrannables.com very, very, very soon. Or any of the Instagram accounts from those. But it's been such a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks so much for this opportunity, Karen.
It's been great talking to you too. I absolutely love you, young people, and you are you're a bloody gem. You really are. You probably don't hear people say that too. You're a bloody gem. See, us oldies have got some good terms, haven't we?
Yeah. I'll use that one just for you.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much, Lewis. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
See ya.